Good morning, everyone. It's early day today. We'll talk about why we're starting a little earlier than normal. But I'm Randy Weir, also known as author R. Weir on my books. Hopefully we have some people will join us today and say hi. You can always comment, ask questions, whatever. We'll share those with people. But we have a fun guest all the way across the pond today we'll be talking to. But first off, I want to do a couple of quick promos. Reminder, I have my new book. I'll throw that up on the screen, covering my face, Murder by 100 Cuts. That's my new Jarvis Man detective novel, dealing with the trial of the Front Range Butcher, which the Front Range Butcher was in the previous, one of the earlier books, and which was one of my award-winning books. And I do suggest people read that book first. Of course, I suggest people read every book I have. as all us authors, we hope you read them and share them with other people. But both are available now, so I hope you'll check those out. And then I was going to talk a little bit about an audiobook that I'm getting created right now. This will be a second book in the Divine Devil series, another award winner, Fallen Star. And my audio narrator, Philip Polite, is in the process of working on that right now. And Philip did my previous audiobook, the first book in the series, The Divine Devils, another award winner. And I hope if you listen to audiobooks, you'll check those out. These audiobooks are definitely expensive to create, and we love to get more downloads on the book so I can continue to do the last two books in the series. We're hoping to get some good sales on that. So please check those out. And then on a personal note, I made a big splash this past week and a half ago and bought a new motorcycle. Those of you who know me and been around me, I was in a bad motorcycle accident 7.5 years ago on two wheels, and it's a little tough for me to ride on two wheels anymore. And my wife was a big rider, and we decided to make a splash and buy this fancy Spider, which is our new bike. And my wife will drive it. I'll be driving it. We both can ride it at the same time. My daughter will sit on the back from time to time with one of us as well. But that's our newest toy, and we're hoping we can stay keep from laying. This one is a little harder to lay down than the other one was. So on three wheels, it works well. Been riding it and enjoying so far a hot summer here in Colorado. So that's a quick bit about me. So I'm going to bring my guest on here. He is a best-selling author, and he is actually all the way over in Ireland. And that's why we're going to be, we're starting so early today, because it's an early day for him. So hello, Mike Faricy joins us today.
Thanks for having me.
Mike and I met I think we connected first on Facebook years and years ago. I think I messaged you or something. I don't remember. And you were very nice, and you were much more well-known than I was at the time. I was just getting started, and you were really nice. And you actually were living in Minnesota, and you still do. And I was an Iowa guy, so we kind of chatted a little bit, and then we got to meet in person at Killer Nashville years and years ago. So, but welcome. Appreciate you being on all the way over in Ireland. How's the weather in Ireland right now?
Well, let me put it this way. I'm online from daily, looking at the weather back in Minnesota. That is about easily 25 degrees warmer there than it is here. So as you can see, I'm wearing a sweater and a shirt underneath it. And if I go outside, I have a flannel jacket on and a hat to cover my halo. And it's cool, but hey, it's lovely. Not a complaint. And then it rains a little bit every day. So, yeah.
Everything's nice and green then, I guess. You always see pictures of Ireland. It's usually pretty green, a lot of lush.
Yep. Very, very green, very lush, lots and lots of flowers up, blooming, roses, peonies, you name it. It's all gorgeous. So really nice, really, really nice.
So we'll, because he's in Ireland, we're going to try not to step over each other when we're talking here, because there's a little bit of delay on the audio. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Mike. I kind of gave you a little introduction, mentioned Minnesota and all that, but give us all the details.
Okay. Well, first of all, because I'm writing 7 days a week, I'm the most boring guy in town because I'm tapping keys on a computer. I was born and raised and still live in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I started writing, a number of years ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago. But what I was writing was, in my opinion, award-winning first chapters of books. And finally, after a number of years, I kind of looked at the stack of first chapters and thought, either fish or cut bait here. Let's get a book done. So I completed a work of genius, and there's a local St. Paul author who's nationally known, and William Kent Kruger. Great guy, writes mysteries, is very successful. Somehow I got his phone number, and I called him and said, hey, I've just finished my first book, and love to talk with you if you've got time. And very graciously, he invited me to the restaurant that was a breakfast lunch place that closed at 2:00 in the afternoon. And he would write there. He would show up at about 11 and then write till 5:00 at night. And they loved him so much, he was just able to sit in the booth and write by hand on a yellow legal pad, which dates it right there. But
yeah.
So I went and had lunch with him, and we talked about everything. And he's, telling me about the publishing industry and things like that. And at the end of it, we're sitting across from each other in a booth. I reach down next to me and I pick up my manuscript and slide it across the table in front of him and said, would you like to read my manuscript? And he holds up his hands and goes, no. And then he explains to me that, one, he doesn't have time, and he finishes up with, and we all have a work that belongs under the bed. So I went home and reread my manuscript and decided, yeah, this belongs under the bed. So I put it there, and it's still there. And I started on book number 2, and I actually then wrote 6 books over the course of about as many years. Again, this is largely before the internet and Amazon and things. And I would send out my letters looking for an agent or a publisher, and along with a self-addressed stamped envelope so I could get my rejection in a proper time frame. And I was getting all the rejections. And on the 6th book, and I was sending out, like 11 letters to people. And the drill. The first 2 paragraphs are about the book, and the 3rd paragraph is 2 sentences about yourself. And I'm sending those out to about 70 different sites. And on the 6th book, I get an envelope back of mine, and it's stamped on the front in a big purple stamp, and it says return to sender. And I look at it, and it's addressed to, in those days, one of the big 6 publishers in New York City. And I turn the envelope over. It's never been opened. And there's a handwritten note on the back of the envelope that says, this does not fit our needs at this time. And they'd never read my letter. And I thought, okay, Mike Faricy from St. Paul, Minnesota doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell with these folks. But there was a side gate going into the playground because Amazon had just started ebooks. And so I published my first ebook and gone on from there. And I love what I'm doing. I work very hard at it. I'm not kidding. I probably, like you, I work 7 days a week. long days. I'll trade hours with anyone if you want to compare. And but I love what I'm doing, and I make my living doing that now. So I'm really lucky to do what I like to do. A couple of things that are different now. One, all my children are married to great people, and they have their own kids, my grandkids. So I don't have kids at home. So I don't have those responsibilities of school, sports, activities, dance, recitals, whatever. I don't have to drive people 8 different places on any given day. So mom and dads who are involved with that right now, hey, I get it. Do the best you can. But I'm Mr. Boring, so I'm up early in the morning posting ads on the internet. I probably post 50 to 60 ads a day offering some fantastic deal on one of my books, and from there I'm writing in the afternoon, in the evening, or formatting or doing something book related, and I love it. I'm blessed to do something I love. So there you have it.
Right. So writing. So I was going to ask you if you have any hobbies, but it sounds like writing is pretty much your business, but takes most of your time. It's like being from Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes. I think you got a fishing pole and throw a line in from time to time, or?
No, I don't, but I love lake places, and being from Minnesota, I have a lot of friends with lake places who can put up with me for 2 days, so I'll spend a weekend at their place. But if they've got internet service, I'll bring my laptop up there and at least post ads on a Saturday and Sunday morning before I'm kicked out. The other thing I do is years ago when I was a kid, God knows why, but I loved bagpipe music. And one of the first record albums I bought was not rock and roll, it was bagpipe music. And I play the bagpipes in a band that, we were formed in 1962. And I think I joined the band in the late 1980s. And I was at one point the band manager and active person. I'm still in it. And we've grown. We've got about 45, 48 people in the band, pipers and drummers. And it's called the Brian Baru Irish Pipe Band. And we play in a 5-state area and have a lot of fun, a lot of good times, a lot of great people. So, and plus I get to wear a skirt around town. Oh, I guess it's a kilt, but So
we won't
it's a
ask
good
what you
time.
wear underneath the kilt, right? Yeah.
I could make some comments.
Or no,
Probably
right?
best I don't. Yeah.
So how long have you been writing? It sounds like you've been writing. You obviously wanted to write, and before the days of self-publishing, you tried to get published. And I know how that was. I wrote 3 books in the 80s before I was even married, and tried to send them off, and it's like, no. So I just wrote them for myself and put them all away, and never even came back to them. Got married, had a kid. And once my kid got older, and then I was like, yep, I'll kind of revisit it again, and and went from there. So how about you? Have you been writing since like you were a youngster, or did you do it in school?
Yes and
or
no. I mean, I was on the school paper in high school, and but not in college. And then I had some friends who, 2 of them had small local papers, and I would write articles to them, and sometimes they'd print them and sometimes they wouldn't, or they'd give me could you check this out and write something? And I would do that. I did that for a lot of years. Not every day, maybe an evening or 2 a month type of thing. I always joke and say my early books, when I had kids at home, my early books were written in the dark, after sunset or before sunrise. Yeah, you just got to fit it in when you can. God forbid anything else comes up, like I say, running kids places or just life in general. So, but I've always been writing and always enjoyed it. I was the kid in class. I sort of joke, but it's actually true. I think I spent most of my grade school years out in the hallway looking in at the classroom because I was kicked out of class for screwing around, and not blaming the teachers. I think today, I don't know, what's an average class size, 19, 22 kids, something like this. Geez, in my day, we had 45 kids to a class, and the teachers didn't have time to, I mean, you either follow directions or you're out. And I enjoyed being out. So I was in the hall for most of the time. And then I went to a pretty tough military school for high school, and it was a little different there. If you were screwing around in class, they just took you outside or out into the hallway and bounced your head off of one of the lockers, and you kind of got the message. And it's great. But I'm very fond of that school, and had a lot of great patient teachers, and I learned an awful lot. So it was good, very good.
Yeah. So you mentioned your first actual book is still underneath your bed. You tuck it away under the bed. Have you ever thought about bringing that out and revisiting it, or is it just one of those I put it away forever and never going to even revisit it?
Yeah, right. It's just put away forever. I move it once in a while to vacuum, and that's about it. But it's there just because Kent Kruger told me that joke, and I thought, yeah, actually this does make sense. So that's where it belongs. Yeah.
Yeah, I have my first 3 novels that I wrote years in the 80s. They're in a fire safe in my closet. And a lot of it was done on a manual typewriter. And then it was the very early days of word processors. And I used AMI Pro, which was a word processor I had at the time. And then I eventually converted it over to Word. So I have digital versions of it now, but I look at it every now and then and go, well, do I want to bring this character and try to turn it in? But I look at it and go, it's going to need a lot of updating, not to mention, being just from the 80s. So, everything changes so much, but I'm like, no, I've got newer eyes and better ideas, but it's still there. Yeah. I figure it'll be a museum piece someday, when, I get famous, right? Yeah.
Perfect. Well, it's interesting. I've got a friend who, as a hobby, he sells collectible books, first editions, signed books, things like that. And one of the things he dealt with, or does deal with on occasion, from big name people, many of whom have passed away years ago, the working projects of their books. I mean, a page would be taped with changes and additions to it, and words crossed out, and then when you think about it, those things went to the printer, and the typesetting was done by letters, one at a time.
Right.
Just amazing. But anyhow, he'll sell those for lots of money. And of course, our generation, for probably the last 30 or 40 years, it's just not like that. I update whatever copy I'm working on. I update that a couple of times during the day when I'm working on it, and any corrections are just automatically added. So, and my editors all read my work electronically. They never receive a printed copy until the work is finally out in the marketplace, and I send them a copy. But just a different world.
Yeah, the one constant I know with my editor, she uses the track changes in Word, so all the corrections are red, right? Lined out in red. The new text, she says, no, you should do this in red. So just like when your teachers used to do, right, on your manual papers, they'd cross it out and write, usually with a red pencil or pen. Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure you've found by the time I'm sending my work to the editors, and I go to 5 or 6 of them, one after the other, but I am so familiar with it, I can't see the forest for the trees. And so there's double words, the, that I have missed uncountable times. And, there it is in red, plain sight at that point, but I've missed it. And it's just, or I've changed the name of someone midway through the book for a chapter, and then it goes back to what they should be. It's just, oh God. You know, I'm a lot of work, so which is
Well,
no
yeah,
surprise.
yeah. Well, so am I. I mean, my editor, God love her, she's great. She's an author too, but she puts up with me. But she puts in here is like, yeah, I get a lot of this doesn't advance the story. You can get rid of
Hmm.
this whole paragraph or several paragraphs, or sometimes even a whole chapter. It's like you don't need
Hmm.
this, and I have a tendency to be a little
Yeah.
wordier than I probably should be. And she does a
Hmm.
good job of keeping me in line. And I've had a few different editors through the year, but I've always enjoyed working with her. So
Yeah, I have one of my editors always sends me a list of the 3 or 4 or 5 words that are overused. You know,
yes.
headed, like headed to the store, headed out on the road, headed in the car. You know, that type of stuff, and you know, or said as opposed to replied or answered or you know questioned or. It's just me.
Hey, that's I was a big Robert B. Parker fan,
Hmm.
and
Me too.
he never self-edited anything. He just wrote it out. He sent it to his editors and says they'll take care of it, and they'll publish it. That's my story, but they'll do it, and they'll fix all those little things and stuff like that. He just wrote it, did it all out, and he was one of those that wrote every day, and he passed away at the
Yeah.
table where he was working even. So yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, he was a writer to the very end.
Isn't that kind of nice? I mean, obviously he really enjoyed it, worked very hard
Yeah.
at it, and I can think of worse options. So
Oh yeah. Well, being one who's been in a motorcycle accident, and thankfully
yeah,
I survived it,
yeah.
but yeah, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Yeah, just to quietly pass away at your desk while you're doing what you love. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. I think we all would be happy with that. So who are some of the authors? I mentioned Robert B. Parker, but who are some of the authors who've inspired you through the years that you enjoyed reading? I mean, you do a lot of
Oh,
mystery,
the
crime.
yeah, I do. I write crime, but it's crime with a sense of humor. Uh,
Hmm.
Ken Kruger, who I've mentioned before, was certainly one of them. Lawrence Shames, uh, you know, just a ton of guys. Carl Hyacin, you know, and I'm always being introduced to new guys or new authors. And what I found with me is if I'm hooked, and I oftentimes get hooked right away, I'll read an entire series as opposed to just one book and then move on to someone else. I just kind of work my way through it, and in fact, work is the wrong term. I enjoy myself as I'm reading, and that's usually probably most of the 7 days a week. I'm ending my day reading someone else's work. Might be for an hour, might be for 2.5 hours. Just reading someone else's book, and I really enjoy it. Again, more written with a sense of humor, much like my stuff. You know, and in my books, no one's going to be parachuting onto the roof of the White House to save the president. You know, it's my series, probably my most popular series, the Dev Haskell series. He's a private eye, uh, a bit of a character. Um, I write the series for crabby old guys like myself. Most of my readers are women. And one of the things that happens to Dev Haskell in just about every book is he's in a relationship with a woman that he screws it up somehow. And by the end of the series, he receives a phone call or an email that says, please don't ever contact me again. And the women, I get emails all the time from women who say, "Oh, I just love this," and then they'll go on and say, "Now I knew a guy who," and you know, it's great.
Yeah.
But that's it. He's the type of guy that you knew in high school, and you kind of wonder whatever happened to him, but you don't want to get too close, just in case. You know, be nice to hear it secondhand from someone rather than maybe running into him. So. It's great. I'm blessed.
Yeah, I know my series, the Jarvis Man Private Eye series. I have some humor in that, and my daughter doesn't think I'm funny, but most people know me pretty well, think I'm fairly funny. But he has a snarky attitude, humor.
Mhm.
If somebody's pointing a gun at him, he cracks a joke, those type of things. And I've
Mhm.
read some of your books, and yes, I always enjoy that attitude and banter. Sometimes it's how they mask their fear. It's like I always think of
Oh,
the
absolutely.
old MASH TV show. Hawkeye was always cracking jokes in the most horrible situations. That's how he dealt with the pain of the war he was dealing with, and
Mhm.
that's what that's the private eyes do that, and I enjoy that aspect as well.
Yeah, yeah, very, very enjoyable. And I'm always picking up. What's interesting, I was going to say, I'm always picking up ideas or information from other people. Two things happen. One is someone's telling a story, and then they look at me and say, "You got to use this in your book." And I'm thinking, no, no, this is not going to be good in my books. The other one is people are just telling a story about a relative or someone they know, and you're thinking, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I could. Yeah, that'll work. One of my series, the Corridor Man, um, the sort of a corridor man in the yeah, there we go. The corridor man in at least in our area refers to usually a disbarred attorney who's working the corridors of the courthouse, and he might be assisting someone who is still practicing the legal profession, and he'll be behind the scenes doing things. And I knew a guy that was disbarred and quite the character, but he was involved in a lot of I'd say interesting things. And not the type of thing you'd want to be involved in or have your children involved in, but they make
Mhm.
for interesting stories.
Yeah.
It's it's good. It's good. So
So then you're indie, right? You're an indie, traditionally indie published author. Do
yes,
everything
yes.
yourself mostly, or you pay people to help you.
Yeah, most of it's done by myself, with the exception of the editing and stuff. But and I have a really great gal who does my covers and that type of thing. But I do the writing, and I publish the books. Um, I get maybe once or twice a year. I've got someone, maybe an agent, more often a smaller publisher, who contacts me and says, "I wonder if you'd be interested." And God bless them, but I'm not interested. I'd
Yeah.
like to remain independent, at least for the time being, because it's working very well for me, and I've been doing it for a lot of years. So you know,
Well, yeah, and you're able to make a living at it. So, I mean, a lot of
yeah.
indie authors can't. It's tough. I maybe break even, maybe. The good thing is
Mhm.
I can write a lot of stuff off too on the taxes and things like that. But
Yeah, yeah.
still, it's but people don't understand for an indie author, especially when you first start out. And I tell people, don't do it because you're going to get rich. Do it because you want to
Oh
do it, and
no.
then you're lucky enough. But there's a lot of costs, paying editors, and good editors are not cheap, and good
Yep.
cover art is hard to come by, and sometimes you may have to have a couple different covers. I've had a couple covers that I've changed through the years because
Hmm.
I didn't like the first one I did, and improved it and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of money involved to do it, so you need to
Yeah.
have
And
at least some
and
deep
paying
pockets
for
to start with.
advertising. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do Amazon
Just
ads?
on occasion, I do Amazon and Facebook ads. Otherwise, I'm doing ads that are run on sites that people subscribe to, and so it's people who want to read crime fiction.
Mhm.
Uh, book sites that I'm their on the book site. I'm their customer, paying for an ad that may run a day or 3 days. Usually, my books are at a discounted price or totally free, and just trying to attract more people to add to my list of followers, and then I alert them in emails that I've got a new book release, or the book has gone into pre-order. It'll be releasing in 30 days on this date, and you can get it at a discounted rate right now. And I run those ads on Facebook, but that's probably easily 50 or 60 sites every day, doing something that's featured, and that's 7 days a week. So,
Wow.
keeps me busy. That's a big part of my morning. That's my wake up call. Get on that. So,
haven't found an assistant to do it for you. That would cost even more.
No, not so. Not a complaint. It's good. And the interesting thing, well, one of the many interesting things I found out, particularly in the crime fiction world, is, and well, we've both been to meetings with other authors, crime fiction authors. Everyone's getting together. Could be for an evening, could be for 3 or 4 days. Killer Nashville comes to mind for 3 days down in Nashville. And I'm meeting people that are obviously essentially competitors of mine. They're writing crime fiction and they prefer that everyone bought their book rather than mine. But
Right.
Everyone is beyond gracious about saying, well, this worked for me, or advertising on this site, try that, it really is good, or you should get in touch with this person, it really helped, da-da-da-da-da-da. Or this didn't work, so stay clear of it. It's just amazing. Everyone is so helpful and so kind. Really, and it's never failed. I've never run into anyone who was, aggressive
Right.
about trying to cut me out or anything. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, Killer Nashville is a great event, and I met many authors there. And yes, you hear the trials and tribulations, and a lot of the classes that they have. You get authors up there and asking questions, and there's authors there, but there's also aspiring authors that are there that are looking to pick your brain too, and it's always fun to talk to. And I remember when I went the first year, I was like, and I'm pretty much, I'm not a super outgoing person to start with. So my wife is the big outgoing person. So that's why she always comes to Killer Nashville with me most of the time. My daughter came last year, but to give her a chance to at least go to Nashville and see stuff. But it's all, but I've gotten a lot more comfortable doing it. And you go back and you see people that you see once a year, let's say, and Clay runs a great event, and Clay's a great guy too. You can walk up to him and you can just talk to him all day if you want. And he's so busy all the time too. I'm amazed.
Yeah.
I'm amazed he's got time to talk to you.
Yeah, but he does. And I actually, I'll say I do more business, or as much business, in the evening after all the panel discussions and things are over, just socializing with people. And we're all in the same business, and that's what we're talking about. And you just get tons and tons of information. And it's really, really great. And everyone is just so gracious. Now you're going to be going to BoucherCon too, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm doing both this year. We're actually going to travel in our motorhome. We're going to stay in Nashville for 2 weeks instead of staying in a hotel. And we last year we were actually camping out. My daughter and I were scouting out campgrounds there to find somewhere that has really good internet connection for my wife, because she can work remotely. And because sometimes campgrounds just have horrible internet, and hotel internet usually is not very good either most of the time. But we found a campground that's actually near where the Gaylord is, just down the road from the Gaylord where BoucherCon's being held. So that had like, really good speeds. They had just upgraded. So we got a reservation there. But yeah, we're going to stay for 2 weeks and try, and I'll have to go back to my days of living in Iowa, hot and humid. August
Yeah.
there is,
Yeah.
and we've done, a couple of years they had the flooding the first year I was there. It just rained and
Mhm.
rained and rained the whole time we were there. And I didn't realize a couple people even died from the flooding. I didn't even know about it. We were so busy at the event. I'm like, we get to the end of the event, wow, some people were actually, the flooding was so bad in town there. And then the second year we were there, the hotel, they had a water line break in half the rooms. They had these huge fans in that were running to try to dry out the rooms and stuff. And of course,
Oh, boy.
COVID has been a little bit of an issue through a couple of the
Mhm.
events too. The first year I was going to go, he was thinking about canceling it and decided to go ahead with it and stuff. So, but it's a great event, and BoucherCon I hear is a little bit different the way they do things and stuff, but it's and they get a lot of really, really big name authors. Michael Connolly
Yeah.
was a speaker one year, and they get some of the real big headlines, and so does Clay. Clay, he gets some really well-known authors as well, and Clay's actually going to be a keynote speaker at BoucherCon this year too. So,
Oh, great.
yeah.
Yeah, neat. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and on my list of things to do is to get more involved. Not only attend BoucherCon, but a couple other uh, uh, events, much like Killer Nashville. There's usually one out in California and another down in Texas and stuff, or upper
Right.
Northeast, and just want to do it. It's really good. So.
Yeah, and again, it's well for you. You spent a lot of your time in Ireland, so that's obviously an expensive plane trip to come over and
Yeah.
stay in the hotel and stuff. For us, we can drive if we want to. I'm not a huge fan of getting on planes, but I'll do it when it's a longer flight. But this time for
Mhm.
2 weeks, we didn't want to live in a hotel for 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
my
No,
wife,
well,
let's do it.
yeah, couple of grand easy,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and the events themselves are not cheap a lot of times as well. But
Yeah,
again, you can write it off. It's a business expense. It's a learning thing, so it all works. So
but you still got to pay for it. Yeah.
you still got to pay for it. Yeah, the government doesn't give you all the money back, but at least get a little bit back sometimes. So, all right. So
Hmm.
Mike. Tell us about your books. You got a lot of different books. I don't think I've even tried to count how many books you've released. You have a lot of character,
Yeah,
and you have like 3 or 4 main series, right? That you still write.
I got four main series. They're the Corridor Man, which I mentioned earlier. That series should be read in order. But the other
Mhm.
three series, the Hotshot series, which is 6 books, my Dev Haskell series, which is 36 books, and my Jack Dillon Dublin Tales series, which is 19 or 20 books now. Those can be read in any order, although to be wise, to just start with the first one and get kind of a setting on it, and then read them in any order you want. The Corridor Man and the Hot Shot series I put to bed a few years ago, so that's as far as they've gone. And then I spend my time. I just alternate. I write a series. I write a Dev Haskell book, and then I write a Jack Dillon Dublin Tale, then back to Dev Haskell, then back to Jack Dillon. I'm probably writing 5 to 6 books a year, and I crank them out. I set a goal of 60,000 words, and the books usually end up right around 65 to 70,000. And I'm so familiar with them that I have a real program that's in my mind that I just crank them out and love doing it. So I'm blessed to do that. Both the Dev Haskell and the Jack Dillon series are not they're not really dealing with serious crimes per se. There's a touch of that usually with some character, but there's a bit of humor in it, a lot of everyday events that seem just like that, an everyday event, and yet by the end of the book, they've had some sort of a reflection on a major crime that's being committed or has been committed. And I just enjoy doing it. I write them not only to entertain people, but for my own entertainment. And it's I work very hard at it, but it's not a brutal task. It's something that I enjoy doing. And you know, you just get down to a routine and you do it, which, as I say, makes me the most boring guy in town, but I'm happy to be that way.
So what's the latest book in the Dev Haskell series? He sent me a couple of book covers here.
Yeah, the latest one in the Dev Haskell series is Online Affair. And what happens there is actually the brother of a friend of Dev Haskell's meets someone online, and it turns out that right from the get-go, he's a wealthy individual, very successful. He's been set up, and he gets drugged in his home, so he's knocked out, and they literally ransack his home, taking some not only expensive antiques, but silver services, credit cards, you know, the whole bit. And it goes on from there. Then it turns out that, lo and behold, there turns out to be a history of those type of crimes happening by the same group of 3 or 4 individuals. And Dev Haskell ends up working with the feds on this, and puts himself out there as a wealthy guy, and ends up kidnapped by the woman involved with taking things over from guys, and it goes on from there. Somehow he survives. Another work of genius.
So that one's is that a pre-release then? Or is it out already?
No, that just released about 2 months ago, and then the latest Jack Dillon Dublin Tale is in pre-order right now, and that's called The Good Neighbor. And my chief protagonist in that book is Jack Dillon, and he's a US Marshal who, through a series of events, gets assigned to An Garda Síochána in Dublin, and that's the Dublin police force. And he's in special branch in that force, and he gets involved in things, and he's getting out of his car, and he hears an argument across the street coming from a neighbor's home, and he's about to go inside, and suddenly the argument sounds like it's getting a little more vicious, and he walks across the street, and the woman who lives there is she doesn't want to let a guy into the house, and the guy's there, and Dev sort of deals with him, and eventually ends up helping him into the car after beating him up. And it goes from there, and it leads to a series of other situations that are interesting. I live, as you said, I'm in Dublin right now, and I live here part of the year with my wife in her home. So, you know, I know the city as well as my hometown, and know the streets and the places to go and not to go, and a lot of the people and a lot of the characters. So it's great. A lot of fun.
Yeah, and then just looking, you didn't send me the covers of your newest books. At least I didn't. I missed. If you did, I missed them. But I think this is book 1 for the
Yep,
Jack
that's
Dillon.
welcome. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good title for a first book.
Yep. Yep.
Just what?
Um, he's involved in a thing with that turns out to be Russian gangsters and ends up in a shootout and a number of other things. And because of that, he runs into a problem with the American embassy here, since he was carrying a gun and things, which is not allowed. So anyhow, it serves to get him involved with the Dublin police force, and we take it from there. And I have since met a number of people who are on the Dublin police force in various roles, and they're really great people, just like the fellas I know, men and women I know at home. So yeah, works out great.
So is he still a U.S. Marshal, or and
he is, but he's assigned to the force, and it makes for well, how can I put it? It makes for a good situation between the two governments, and so he's allowed to stay in that position. And he's got a partner, and he does real well. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
And then this was the first book in the Dev Haskell series.
In the Dev Haskell series, Russian Roulette. Yeah. And as you might guess, based on the cover, it's not serious crime, but there's a lot of ne'er-do-well stuff going on. In a way, real day-to-day type of situations that people deal with. Throughout the series, he's oftentimes contacted by someone who he knew who has run into a problem, or has a relative who's got a difficult situation, and could he just check on this? And then that usually leads one thing to another. So yeah, it's good. It's good.
Those family members will always get your characters in trouble, won't they?
Oh yeah, well, thank God. Makes for a good book. Yeah.
You always watch. We watch TV shows all the time, and it's always a friend or a relative or whatever. And by the time the series is run 8 years, it's like, holy cow, this guy has a whole lot of relatives that are getting in trouble all the time.
Yeah, invariably. No, it's great. It's great.
And then what was this one here? This is your Hotshot
Reduced
series.
Ransom. Yeah, the Hotshot series. There's 6 books in the series. They're the first 6 books I wrote, and they're all standalones. In reading them, they certainly point to the direction I went with doing the other series, which I didn't realize at the time. And Reduced Ransom is literally about 2 ne'er-do-well characters who decide that wouldn't it be great to kidnap women and then offer a reduced ransom so that they'll get paid right away. And
give them a discount, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And as you might guess, some things don't go as planned.
Target blue light special, Kmart blue light special, I guess. Huh?
Yeah. It's great though. So yeah, the Kmart special and kidnapping. But it's good, very good. And like I say, I enjoy all of them.
Yeah, I love on your website here, and I love your little welcome to your books thing, where you're talking about the sort of oddballs they're all curious about, but wisely prefer to keep at a distance. Its characters serve not so much as an example as they do a warning. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that comes in part from the grade school. I went to a Catholic grade school, so there were nuns, and back in those days, they ran a tight ship. And I just remember one of them, I was standing out in the hall at the time, and so I'm listening to things that are being said across the hall in a different classroom. And the nun is telling the class, we will not have any Michael Faricys in this room. And and I thought, I'll show you. Which
Oh
you know,
man.
I God bless them all. They taught me how to read and write. I wish they were still alive so I could get to them and tell them, hey, you know what I do for a living now? I write books. No one would be more surprised than they are. So
About smart alecky characters like you were when you were in school, right?
yeah. Well, I'm sure everyone had money on, when I'd go to jail, based on the things we did in those days and at that age. But
So are you a
it's
pantster
great.
or a plotter? It sounds to me like you're a pantster, but
Yeah, I am very much so.
okay.
And in fact, I call it my outline. It's essentially a number of comments or sentences that are just written down that don't, it could be anything from don't forget that he's got to be here on tomorrow night at some to meet someone, or so and so did this. And then as I'm going along, I thought, it'd be interesting if this person did, and there you go, just a note to remind me. And they're constantly being added to and then deleted as I accomplish whatever they refer to. But that's how I operate. And then I keep those with everyone's name in bold copy, because invariably a number of the individuals will come back, and if not the next book, 2 or 3 books later, and just some common things about where they live, the car that they drive, what they do for work, that type, color of the hair, whatever. But all of that, it's amazing. If you goof that stuff up, I'll get an email from someone that says, hey, what's the deal? He used to have a beard, or he was bald and now he's got a full head of hair, if you goof it up. So you got to watch it.
Well, in this modern day, though, you could always say, well, he's just wearing a toque now, or he had a hair transplant, or if the color changes, everybody dyes their hair these days and stuff. Obviously, you can grow a beard and shave a beard. So those things evolve.
Well,
but yes, you're right.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the reoccurring women in my book always has a different hair color. Usually nothing that would be natural. I mean, it's sky blue, or it's pink with white highlights, or, whatever. But
very common. And the only thing you can't really do is, like, if they had tattoos and the next one they don't have tattoos, it's a little harder to get rid of tattoos.
Yeah. Well, and she's always a hot number. So it's great.
Her hair color is her mood, huh?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Absolutely. So
are any of your characters based on real people or people that you've learned, or are they kind of like Frankenstein, where you kind of piece together from people you've met through the years?
A little bit of all of that. The Corridor Man series was based on a guy I know who was a disbarred attorney, served I think 3, maybe 4 years in a low prison, a Fed prison that was basically a resort if you didn't mind being locked up at night.
Minimum security,
yeah, minimum security. And a lot of things that other people have done, and some personality traits. You just think, yeah, that'd be interesting. It's just goofy enough that I like it. So, yeah. A lot of situations where a guy does something and his wife, only because I've received it, just shakes her head and goes, "What are you thinking?" Which amazingly, that happens to all of us. So and rightfully so, I might add. So,
and do any of your characters cross over into your various series, or are they all just own little universes?
No, they don't. I am toying with one of the characters in the Dev Haskell book I'm writing right now. I am thinking of uh, starting another series with him, but part of the negative about that is the two series I'm working on now are doing really well. Why would I want to halt or cut back on a couple of the, say, two books out of this? Each series does 3 books a year. Why would I want to eliminate one or two of those books in order to start a new series? So I don't know, just I go back and forth on it. So
Yeah, I've had some comments. Like, I have a lawyer that's in my Jarvis Man series, and I have some crossover characters and stuff. But sometimes people say, "Oh, he'd make a good series," but sometimes you kind of like him being a more of a minor or background character, and they fit better within the framework of a. They may not work as a lead character as well, and that happens in some TV series do that sometimes. They spin off a character, and that character is better just being a secondary character, with those smaller parts and stuff, and which can be true in your books too.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with having secondary characters that are very interesting.
That's a big part of it. You got to have that.
Yeah.
So what do you do? The name of my podcast, Bringing Life to Character. What do you look for to bring life to your characters, make them realistic, jump off the page? Obviously, you use humor in a lot of your stuff, and humor.
I use humor.
None of us can survive without humor.
I use a lot of real situations. And by that, I really mean, for example, in my Dev Haskell book, he and his office mate, who's an attorney named Louis Laufin, and Louis handles DUI cases. That's what he does all the time. And he in the office that they share, which is one small room, Louis's desk is actually a picnic table. And he's got a computer mounted on that, and a file drawer. They both go across the street to the Spot Bar, which happens to be a small neighborhood bar in St. Paul. I think it's also the oldest continually operating bar in the city since like 1865 or something. But it's just a neighborhood place, not fancy, but real nice, and great characters in there. That's part of what it adds to the story. Just traveling in situations, driving and running into situations that happen to all of us. You're worried about running out of gas and you can't find a gas station because you're out in the country somewhere, or you're dealing with snow, or whatever. Just those types of things. Someone who's nice or not nice in the grocery store or at the bank or wherever you're going. Just that type of stuff. It all adds up to experiences we've all had, and it makes it just that much more relative to who's ever reading the story.
So when you run across those things, you talked about you make little notes sometimes. Do you write those down, or do they just kind of stick in your head and go?
No, I always write them down, and I have a billfold that I carry that has a little notebook in it with a pen. And I have notebooks next to me all the time and of course, what I've learned is I have to be careful not to abbreviate too much, because suddenly I'll come back 3 or 4 days later and it's illegible and I don't know what I'm writing there. So, I should print rather than write fast. So
I do that too. I've got my little notebook here that I make notes, and sometimes I'll go back to it and go, I have no idea what I mean what I wrote. It's like, because I do that. I say, I'll remember. I'll just kind of quick 3 or 4 words, and I'll remember what it was. And of course,
Yep.
gray matter,
I
right?
got one right next to me. I've got one in my car in the console, you know, always. Yeah. In my computer bag. Yeah. Yeah. You never know. In fact, I had a situation a couple of years back at the airport, and I was flying somewhere, and I'm actually at the gate as the plane is just coming in and it's going to deplane. And there's 2 officers, airport officers out there, and they have dogs with them. And I'm talking to the officers, and I said, "Oh, so you're sniffing for drugs or something?" And the officer looks at me and goes, "No, actually, these dogs are trained to sniff for currency." And I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, people bringing in exceptional amounts of currency in a bag that makes it through TSA somehow." He says, I think he said close to $2 million that year. And it was, you know, like June that they had come across that coming into the airport. So yeah, and that's out of the blue. And I used that in one of my books, you know.
Yeah.
So just, yeah.
So what advice do you give aspiring authors? You've been doing this a long time. You are obviously very persistent for years and years and years. So
You got to keep at it. I mean, first of all, as you know, Randy, it's hard work. It really is. As much as we enjoy it, we work very hard at it. And you got to keep an open mind. And you got to be aware of the reader base you have and what they like. One of the things I've learned is that my reader base, I'd say probably 60 plus 65% female, does not like a lot of the colorful language that men might use just talking to themselves. So I have cut back on a lot of that stuff and moderated it greatly. That type of stuff. Just keeping them in mind. I mean, that is my audience, and I need to be aware of what they like and don't like. And God bless them. They send a lot of emails to me saying, "I really enjoyed this," or once in a while, unfortunately, I didn't like this, but okay, message received. You know, it's great. Yeah. And I may not agree with it, but I always pay attention to what people are saying, even regarding what I should be writing. Oh, it'd be really funny if you did this, and then I'll decide if indeed it would. But yeah, sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. It just, you know, that's how it goes. It's a non-ending game. The one thing I do is I really stay away from mentioning anything political, particularly in today's world, because you're going to upset 50% of the people. So why do it? That is pretty much a not happening subject.
Yes, politics is big stuff.
Yeah. If I'm trying to think if I ever mentioned anything like the president or Congress. I don't think I do, other than to maybe mention something like the house was built in the Reagan administration, or something like that, just to give it a time frame. Yeah, but otherwise, no. And that has worked very well. And if anyone is making political comments on my Facebook site, I will caution them, and if they keep it up, I'll just delete them, because I just don't need it. It doesn't help, and as I say, it upsets 50% of people, conservative or liberal. I don't care. It's just, life's too short. So
yeah, and I will tell people they should check out Mike's Facebook site because you post some really funny photos on there. I don't know
Oh,
where you
thank you.
find all those at, but I always enjoy seeing some of them. They're just almost laugh out loud. Some of them that you find
Good.
just
Good. They
various.
should be. Everyone needs a laugh every day, so.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you need a laugh, go to Mike's site because he has some really great and a lot of it's a lot of it's good from the men, the stupid things that men do. Those
Mhm.
I like a lot of that. Being a man, I could relate to a
Well,
lot.
I lead the league, so
Yes, it's great. So
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so you don't do a lot of events per se. I know you've been talking about trying to do more. Obviously, living in Ireland's a
yeah.
little bit tougher, but you've been going to Kid Over Nashville for how many years now? Have you been going to Killer
Oh
Nashville?
boy, geez, 6, 7, 8.
Because this is
I
like
think
the
it might be
16th,
8 years.
17th, or 18th year I think that he's done
Yeah,
it, and
yeah,
they missed. I think they skipped a year because of COVID. I believe one year
yeah,
they
yeah.
did.
They did. But as I say, I really enjoy it, and it's it's a great event, and it's uh, nothing against our readers, but it is strictly for writers. And I just learned so much and get so much information, and hopefully pass a lot of information on to people that are there. So yeah.
Yeah. And but you're not going to go to BoucherCon this year. You've never
I'm
been to
not.
BoucherCon before. Yeah.
No, I've not, and I think, as I mentioned, uh, a year or two ago, it was in Minneapolis, and I neglected to go, which I'm still kicking myself for doing. But probably next year will be my first one. I just had too much stuff going on this year, so
I'm trying to remember where next year's going to be. Was it?
Is it Texas somewhere or California?
I can't remember where next year's. I mean, they've plotted. They move.
I could be wrong
BoucherCon's
on
a little
both.
different. They do it in different cities every year.
Yeah.
Kind of go around the country. Thriller Fest is always held in New York City, and that's more of a publishing where all the big publishers are. And like you said, there's a couple others whose names are escaping me as well. But BoucherCon, yeah, they go. Maybe it's New Orleans because they were supposed to be in New Orleans one year, and that was the year it
That
got
might ring
canceled.
a bell. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was the year they had to cancel it, and they had Michael Conley was the keynote speaker, and I think he ended up doing it remotely. So, if I remember right, but yeah, I think it might be New Orleans, but my wife and I have talked about maybe trying to go next year, and they do it at different dates too, so it's different times of year as well. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can people find you?
Yeah, yeah. It's always a tough game, and I'm always working on it. How to find me? That's one of the reasons I post two hopefully funny posts every morning, just so people check me out. And God forbid there's also a post on there for one of my books or an offer or something. So. And I, as I mentioned, I've got an offer for 5 free books if people are interested, and they can subscribe and get them. And and there's the
that's
it
link
right
to
there.
that. Yeah. And I know your newsletter you do once or twice a month, and your newsletter, you always have this picture wherever you took this picture at, wherever that bar is.
Yep.
You look a little like Ace Atkins there, if you know who Ace Atkins is, because he usually wears a ball cap. He's a little wider than you, I think. He's a little bigger because he played football. But yes, when I first saw that, I goes, "Wow, it looks like Ace Atkins." Nope, that's Mike. And Ace, of course, he's from the South. But yeah, you offer your newsletters come out, and you're always offering a lot of great deals on books. Sometimes you do, and you have a lot of your books are in box sets, which are great deals. Even if they're not free, they're still great deals. You get 4, 5, 6 books in a box set for a great price.
For a couple of bucks, and for about 10 cents a piece. Yeah. So
you don't think about how much you get paid per word in that case, right? Or how many hours it went into.
Well,
That's
and
great.
part of the deal is with the free books is, geez, I'm hoping it might be an introduction for someone who's never heard of me before,
Right.
you know, and frankly, that's one of the things I'm interested in, with starting to do more in-person sites, whether it's a local book fair or something, because undoubtedly there's going to be a number of people coming through who've never heard of me before. And if I can get them to be interested in a book, or just take my card with the offer for 5 free books, uh, great. You know, that's a win.
Yeah, and like I said, I would check out your Facebook page. It's like I said, there's some great pictures on there. I'm always looking in my feed at those and get a good laugh
Good.
out of those. I enjoy those. I'm a big humor guy myself, so I love that. So, but yes, everyone definitely sign up for the newsletter if you love crime books and you like some humor in them. Mike's your guy. So
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, I think we've covered most everything. Unless there's anything else that you want to bring up
Well, I'd just
today.
like to thank you for having me. Really appreciate you. I wish you all success. Looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing you in August in Nashville. And
Yeah. We'll be there.
be safe and sane between now and then. You know,
Well, I don't know if I'll be completely sane. You know, some of the books I write, sometimes
you're
I got to be
preaching
a
to the
little nuts,
choir.
but
Yeah,
I got to get
great.
into it. You know, I write a serial killer book. I got to get into the serial killer's head. So as long as I don't turn, I tell everyone, as long as I don't turn into one, that's okay. But you got to get into those characters' heads sometimes, and some of my books are a little more serious, and some are a little more humor. But I always still like to throw in a little humor out of the ordinary and stuff. So, but yes, everybody needs to check out Mike's books. They're fun reads, and most of them are fairly quick reads too. So some of like you say, you have a lot of female readers. I know my wife; she's a huge reader, and she could burn through a 60,000 page book in a day or two. I mean, that's no big
Hmm.
deal. So
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
probably they're going, why can't you write faster? Right? I hear that a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that. Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
thanks so much, Randy. It's been great talking to you, and thank you
Yeah.
for including me. I really appreciate it.
Sure. No, it was great having you on, Mike. I always enjoy talking with you. And yes, we'll see you in Nashville, maybe at the breakfast table or at one of the after meal drinking events there, the
Yeah.
meet and
Yeah.
greets
No
as they
doubt.
call them and stuff. So,
You got it.
well,
Okay.
all right. Take care,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah. All right, everybody. That was all. I'll wrap up today with a couple other little doodads. I'm going to be in Deadwood, South Dakota. I'm working to get the motorhome ready. Actually started working on it, get ready, but we're going to be in Deadwood, South Dakota for the event starting. The actual author event's Saturday, but they have a meet and greet that's on Thursday. And then we get a little break, but they have some author classes and stuff like that. But I'll be there on Thursday, and then we're going to do some vacation time, which should be fun. Usually about almost 90 authors there. We hope we'll sell some books. We'll see. Some years are better than others, but hopefully people are traveling. It's during Wild Bill Days, which is a great event. So, but thanks everybody for being on today and listening. And those who weren't on, hopefully you'll watch a recording of this down the road. And my next one will be in probably 2 weeks. I think it's going to be 2 weeks on a Tuesday. And I'm going to be talking to Kirsten Moglin, who's another one I've met at Killer Nashville. And she was a big award winner a couple years ago, won best overall book, best suspense book. So, and she's a real bundle of energy. She's like $1 million book seller on ebooks. So she's very successful. So always fun to talk to her. So, but thanks everyone. We'll see you in a few weeks. Take care.